Hey there, everyone. Before we start the show, we here at Popcorn for Dinner want to give a big shout out to our good friend and illustrator, Kyle Kedzik, for helping us celebrate making it to 40 episodes with some brand new custom artwork, which is now up on all of our social media accounts. We love it. We hope you love it. And if you're looking for some new custom artwork for your business or project, you can look him up on Facebook at Kyle Kedzik, or even drop him a line at kylekedzik@gmail.com. That's KYLEKEDZUCH@gmail.com. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Christmas movies month is inching ever closer to Christmas Day. And this week, we watched a Christmas movie that obviously I'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
You hadn't seen it before.
No, I hadn't even heard of it.
That, I guess, was what was surprising to me, is because it's like I remember the gist of the concept of this movie, but I never looked any further into it. I was even like this close to watching a trailer beforehand. But I was like, no, if there's something in it that's going to surprise me, I want it to surprise me while I'm watching the movie and not see it in the trailer and be thinking about it ahead of time. And it did not take long for this movie to throw the strangest of curveballs in it was I wrote down second note, I called it outstandingly strange, the entire sort of concept of this movie, because you hear the basic premise of this and it makes sense if you don't think about it too hard. And then once you see it built into like a movie where it's like, oh, it's gotta be this whole big fleshed out thing, all of a sudden you're like, wait a second.
Hold up.
The fuck? I had so many what the fucks in here. So we're just gonna need to jump into it as soon as possible. So but the movie that we watched this week is the 2007 American fantasy comedy adventure film Fred Claus. I don't see adventure in this movie anywhere. That is a misnomer.
I guess
there was
because
hardly
he
adventure.
Travels to the North Pole.
I mean, come on. That is not an adventure. That's
No, it's not.
If it takes like 3 seconds of screen time to do it, it's not an adventure. I'm sorry.
I mean, he adventured from land to land at the end of the movie. But
I guess.
no.
Starring, of course, Vince Vaughn, and as Santa, Paul Giamatti.
So strange.
I didn't even write a single note about Paul Giamatti because I was like, he is like, I mean, for one, he's just absolutely not the choice that I would make to play Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Or the choice I would make to play Vince Vaughn's brother.
Yeah.
Or like, it didn't make any kinds of sense.
Yeah.
But I was like, but it's Paul Giamatti. He's fantastic. He will not let it be as bad as this movie should be.
Yeah.
Like the things that he'll do will be so like you'll just like I was literally just sitting there being like, Paul, you don't have to try this hard.
Yeah.
This movie's garbage.
Yeah.
Like this
you
is
are so much better than this movie.
Yeah, like it's so bad, and it should have been obvious to everyone before anything began that this movie was just ludicrous and stupid. And well, yeah, I was just using the word ludicrous, but yeah, ludicrous is in this as well.
My God.
Kathy Bates and not Patrick Stewart. When I first saw the Claus parents, I was like, oh, Kathy Bates and Patrick Stewart. Oh my God.
For a second.
And then later it was like, oh no, it's actually not Patrick Stewart.
For a second, I was like, Eugene Levy?
Yeah, it could have. You could have been too. Give him some like old man makeup a little bit because he wouldn't have been that old.
No.
And then Rachel Weisz, Weissz, I don't know. As his girlfriend Wanda, the random British cop in Chicago, which is just like such I don't know what they were going at with that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming she is British. Yes, she's British American. So I'm assuming that's just her accent.
Yeah.
And obviously I understand that it's like, yeah, people live in America and they have accents. It's not like it's the craziest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like the craziest thing in the world that he randomly stumbled upon.
Yeah.
The one British lady cop in Chicago.
Yes. Possibly all of Chicago, at least British to the point of still having an accent.
Yeah. And like not like with it in their history or something like that. Totally. And then you also have one I want to leave till the end. You got Liz Banks.
Yes.
As it says here, Charlene, because I totally did not remember her character name because every time she popped up, I was like, hey, it's Liz Banks.
Yeah.
That's all I could think. Like, oh.
She's so adorable.
She's wonderful. And she's like perfect as the like lady elf person. It's just like we'll get into their whole thing, the elves and shit, because that's like a huge thing of this movie, and it's so fucking weird.
Yeah,
and that'll come at a certain point. But Liz Banks is in it. John Michael Higgins as Willie, the other elf guy who is her like co-anchor in those fucking
Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, the Pitch Perfect movies. Which is like, was this the first time they worked together? Was it like on this movie that they were like, we should totally, I'll get him to be in. Didn't she like produce those movies too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure she was like, oh, he'll be great. I'm gonna call him up. So it's like way better stuff in the future came from this like nuclear dump of a movie. Ludacris, obviously, like we said, is also in it.
It's the DJ.
Yeah, and then the kid who played Samuel or Slam, Bobby J. Thompson. I was like, this kid's so fucking familiar. He's really not in that much. It's just that I think like a year later he was in Role Models with Paul Rudd and Sean William Scott, and he's hysterical in it. That kid, he's really fucking good. And one of the weirder ones in terms of only showing up in one scene, expecting it to be a bigger role, and then wasn't. Jeffrey Dean Morgan,
right,
playing the dude who hits on Wanda and whatnot. And I was like, oh my god, Jeffrey Dean Morgan! Oh my god, is there going to be like a confrontation between Vince Vaughn and Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
Please.
That's going to be amazing. And then he never shows up again. They talk about how it's like, I never even went out with that guy. And it was like, oh, but he was Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Like, you really shoulda.
Yeah, really. Come on.
I got very excited when he popped up.
Yeah, like I said, I was hoping he'd be in it more.
Yeah.
It would have been great. I find it really funny looking through this fucking list of names now of how many of these people have been in movies that we've done in ridiculous little roles, like Jeffrey Dean Morgan obviously being in Rampage, Ludacris being in Max Payne,
I forgot about that.
Vince Vaughn in The Lost World, Jurassic Park, all that kind of stuff. But then the one that was easily the like, the like pulling on your shirt collar, like, oh no, what's gonna happen here is Kevin Spacey. And like I it's not even a case of like I can never watch a movie with Kevin Spacey in it again.
Yeah.
Because he's been in so many really good movies.
Yeah.
And unfortunately he's given a lot of really good performances.
Yes.
Like you can't be like, he was garbage in that movie. No, he was fucking great. Who are we kidding?
Like, brilliant actor.
God, he's so
terrible
good.
person.
Yeah, like it's a real bummer. But when he showed up and he was like the villain, I was like, oh no, what sorts of things are going to be happening in regards to this? Thankfully, I only noticed one thing that was hysterical in retrospect, which was Vince Vaughn saying to Spacey, there's something real kind of creepy about you. Being like, ooh, you don't know how right you are, Vince. Like, that's hysterical to me. But like, you know, it was just a case of like, oh man, here he is. Okay.
Technically, there was one more person.
Weird moment. One more person.
Yes.
Who am I? I'm looking at the list. Who am I missing?
Stephen Baldwin.
Well, those other brothers were real too.
No, I know.
I didn't know that. I mean, I knew Stallone obviously because he looks exactly like Sylvester Stallone. There's no way he's not his brother.
Yeah.
I did not know that was actually Bill Clinton's brother. Roger Clinton. I was like, that's just an actor who's playing a gig, right? Like,
I saw it in the credits.
Yeah, I was like, oh, holy shit, okay. But yeah, that whole sequence as well is super weird.
Yeah.
But it ties into essentially what the movie is, which is like, what if Santa had a brother who didn't like Christmas?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the gist. And you're like, okay, on paper, like you think of that as like maybe look at it as like a kid's book, you know, like the brother who didn't like Christmas or something, you know, whatever the fuck it is. Because I think it was sort of based on a kid's book or something like that. At least like the idea came from something like that.
That sounds right.
Oh yeah, loosely based on the poem, A Legend of Santa and His Brother Fred. So obviously a poem does not have to go into the logistics of how all this shit is working.
Yes.
A movie, unfortunately, I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't have to.
Yeah.
The movie seems to think it has to like give us the real reasoning for shit that doesn't make sense, and then they ignore all the rest of the magic that happens.
Yeah.
Like the real magic that you can't ever explain, but they try to explain the other shit. Because like right off the bat, I'm confused because I know that Vince Vaughn is in this movie and I know that he is in present day. Like there's no way he's not.
Right.
Like I think on the cover, yeah, he's he's wearing a fucking like polo shirt and jeans on the cover. It's like, yeah, he is a present day man.
Yeah.
So when the movie starts in like the 1600s or fucking whatever the fuck that was, I was like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And they show the Claus parents having an exceptionally fat baby that says ho 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 instead of baby words or laughing or yeah, exactly. And I was like, wait a minute. What? And then Fred, the little kid, shows up. And you're like, okay, so that's Fred. And the fucking narrator or whatever is telling us all this. Like, this is the story of Fred. Like, okay, wow, that's great. Okay, I don't.
Yeah.
Whatever. I couldn't focus on that. It was just like, okay, so the kid hates his brother because his brother's like super nice to everybody, and you know, hence Saint Nick, like the sort of nickname that his mom gives him as a little kid. Like, oh, he's just so nice, and he gives presents to other kids, and he's this and that. Like, I thought it was super lame that they had to like cram in like a Santa origin story.
Yeah.
Or it was like, how did he come to going down chimneys? How did he come about? How did Christmas trees come about? Because he knew his brother liked that tree, so he cut it down to bring it inside. Like, that's not nice.
Yeah.
He likes that tree because it's in nature.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, I put it in your room. Like, thanks, asshole.
You just killed the thing he likes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's absurd, but everyone's like, oh, he's so nice. So you kind of understand where Fred's coming from, where he doesn't like him. But it's just like, oh my God, movie. What, like, how are you going to reconcile this movie?
Yeah.
Like, this is clearly like not ancient times, but you know, cabin in the woods. this is around the time like The Witch happens. It's that kind of era. And then there's just this like quick throwaway line of narration where it's just like, and then when he became an adult, he became a true saint, and therefore him and all of his family and any of their spouses are immortal. Anyway, moving on to, and I was like, what?
Yep.
What? Santa is immortal? He was a real man who became immortal, and then him doing Santa things created Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, that is the concept of this movie. And then his brother Fred, like, resents his brother for, you know, everyone loving him and people being like, you should be more like your brother.
Yeah.
So he grows up, which is like, it's so baffling to think of. Like, you realize that you're wrong thinking about it because of this ridiculous immortality nonsense that they throw at you at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's like, he eventually, hundreds of years later, becomes a repo man because it's like, oh, it's hilarious because he takes things. Santa gives them, he takes them. Get it? But again, like, all of the like beginning and the setup, where it's like, he's a repo man and he's a jerk, and he has that really inappropriate conversation with that girl. Yeah. About her life and what it will become because she watches TV or something. According to him, like, according to his fast talking story, which is his whole character. I wrote down, it was like, he just speaks so fast that he hopes no one realizes what he's saying.
Essentially,
you know, that is the character. Because it's like, there's that, like, the whole sequence when he's talking to the guy that he's going to buy the building from or whatever for that off-track betting. It's literally just like almost a full minute of him being like, I'll need the money by the 22nd, and then Vince Vaughn saying like, 22nd, 23rd, 25th, maybe if it's the 25th, it doesn't matter. He's like, 22nd. He's like, right, or 23rd, maybe 24th, 22nd, right, yeah, or maybe the 23rd. It could be the 23rd, 22nd. Yeah, but if it happens to be, and that's the whole scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is garbage. Please get more magical when you get back to the North Pole or something, because this just like Vince Vaughn being a guy, like you would have no clue that this character has anything to do with Santa.
Yeah.
If you didn't watch the whole prologue and you just started with him repossessing that thing from the kid, and it's like absolutely nothing Santa related at all.
Yeah.
And I get it that like that's what his life is. Like, I don't want anything to do with Santa.
Well, he did punch the Santa decoration in the front lawn.
That's right. Well, that would seem completely like insane. Like he would look like a lunatic if he didn't have that intro.
Yeah.
He just goes to like tackle it or something. Which is like, that must be what he looks like to everybody.
Yeah.
He must just be a lunatic. And like,
he's immortal. He don't care.
Yeah, they never touch on the immortality ever again. Like, it's never a thing in this movie. It's just a way to get it to the present day
with all of those characters.
Yeah, like with those characters, like Kathy Bates is still there to play the mom because
she was still alive when he became a saint. So she froze in time.
Everyone's immortal or whatever. Oh my God. But it's just like that is so huge. In like that is like, just thinking about it. Like I wrote down, I was like, what if Fred doesn't want to be immortal?
Yeah.
Like, it must be exhausting to just be like, I was just living a life, and then one day, this brother I don't like cursed me with immortality.
Yep.
Like, that's an interesting story. And I get it, it's a little less kid-friendly to be like, I want to die, or anything like that. But it's just like, once you're coming up with this story, like, in the process of coming up with this, like, that's the point where whoever was writing it needed to be like, this isn't a kid's movie.
Yeah.
I need to write this as something else because this immortality nonsense that I just wrote opened up this huge box of worms. Jar of worms.
Not even just a can.
Yeah,
a
the
whole
entire box of jars of worms. Cans of worms. However, whatever you put your worms in, they're out. They came out. They escaped. But yeah, that's like all I could think of. Like every single interaction he had with a human being, I was just like, but he's really not one of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this dude's been alive for like 1,000 years or something. Like, how do you just like readjust every couple of decades to just be like, okay, this is what the world is like now? Like, you don't even get older to be like able to seem like an old timer who's out of touch. It's like you are, however fucking old he was, like 40 or whatever. Yeah. I don't know, like 30 something, 40, whatever. Where it's just like, you are that age forever, and you must always act like that kind of person.
Yeah.
Like forever, until the end of time.
Yep.
It's both over-explaining and under-explaining Santa Claus. Because it's like, think about every fucking movie you've ever seen with Santa Claus in it. He just is.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's no reason to ever go into the specifics. You know what I mean? It's like even when it's like, oh yeah, and there's Mrs. Claus. Like even the questions that come from that, like has she always lived up here? Like were they the only two people? Did he go down to the normal world and meet her and bring her up there?
Yeah.
Even like that's, you're just like, oh, but it's Mrs. Claus. It's him and Mrs. Claus. They never have kids, so who fucking cares?
Yeah.
He built her out of snow. I don't know. It's magic up here. Who gives a shit? But like making you like deal with the real backstory of Santa and then going into it where it's like, he's the most popular person on the planet then. Like a real person, because he is a real person.
Yeah.
But people don't know that. It seems like the world still doesn't understand that he's a real person.
Yeah.
Because they get mad at Fred at the end during the Siblings Anonymous. He's like, I'm Santa Claus's brother. And they're like, you think this is a joke?
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute. They brought his fucking girlfriend up to the North Pole for an intervention. And I was like, okay, so I guess I wasn't even mad about that. I was just like, oh, okay. So I guess in this world, It doesn't, who fucking gives a shit?
Because they brought the therapist up there too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just like, okay, people know that Santa's real and stuff in this world. So, okay, whatever, fine. That's just how it works here. And then later they're making jokes like that isn't how it works. And I'm like, I don't understand. Do they kill anyone who comes up there? Is there a real dark underbelly to this? I'm not 100% sure. But like, essentially the movie is just like, Fred needs money. Santa apparently has a shitload of money and he is too nice all the time. And his wife is like, you can't just give him a bunch of money. So he's like, well, then tough love, Fred. You got to come to the North Pole and work at the North Pole and earn your money. And wasn't it like, how much was it again?
$50,000.
$50,000. And like, there's no way that he did $50,000 of work while he was there.
No.
On top of the fact that he didn't even have the opportunity to do $50,000 worth of work. Like he definitely didn't because he slacked at it and he's terrible and he fucked everything up. Yeah. But also there was like a week that he had to do this. Like, there's no way that you're still just giving him money, Nick. Yeah. There's no, it's like if he came up there for like a year, then it'd be like, okay, then you can get your $50,000. That's your salary for working at the North Pole. But then he's literally just like, could you just do a little light filing and then I'll embezzle you $50,000 as payment for your work. Yeah. So he goes up to the North Pole and it's basically like all of the jokes from Elf about a human-sized person using elf things all the time. And it's like 4 years later, and it's like you're just using the same, like, oh, look, when he lays on the bed, his legs hang off. Oh, look, when he sits in their chairs, it looks goofy. And like just all the time, I'm like, look, it's a kid's movie. It's PG, whatever. Yeah. Like, I know that you're not going to be able to get, like, it's not going to be like a fucking... like Apatow comedy or something like that, where people are going to be like cursing and swearing and like sex jokes and things. But still, the fact that it was just like, man, we are banking on this whole big guy uses little things bit. I really hope there wasn't another enormously popular Christmas movie recently that did that. Possibly starring a guy who has starred in movies with our lead character. I certainly hope that hasn't happened. And God... the fucking elves.
They were awful.
They were so unbearable to look at. Yeah. And like legitimately like hurting my eyes sometimes trying to track their movements. Yeah. And like the faces on these bodies and stuff.
It was awful.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm just gonna keep going back to Elf because it's the goddamn gold standard of kids movies, of like kid Christmas movie where like a kid can love it and it's fucking hysterical for adults. Yes. Obviously, if you're in that wheelhouse, I'm sure there's plenty of people who are like, it's still dumb. But you can look at it and see like, oh, that's actually a really good movie for adults as well as kids. This was like pure... like, just throw silly shit on the screen. The kids will laugh. The adults will be tricked into thinking they didn't waste their money because their kids maybe laughed a little bit. Yeah. Everyone goes home and nobody cares. Nobody thinks about it ever again. But we got our money, so who gives a shit? Yeah. Like, that's what this movie feels like. And those elf effects, I was like, they were so much better in Elf. Yeah. They did the exact same thing of like, take Bob Newhart and then make it look like he's tiny compared to Will Ferrell. Yeah. Simple enough. And they did it. And I think they did it with like forced perspective and shit. Because I'm pretty certain it was just like, there's Bob Newhart. He's just in an elf costume and he's just sitting there and he's a man and that's his body. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That is the entire man.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the entire enchilada right there. But then this one where it was like it's so confusing because it's like, I don't believe that the people who played these elves were as tall as they looked in the movie. Right. You know what I mean? Like those bodies standing next to Vince Vaughn, like that was not a like super short person standing next to Vince Vaughn with a new face plastered on it. It was like somebody else's body scaled down, then another guy's face put on it. And nothing looked good. Nope. And it always looked terrifying. And then it really, really stuck out in those like 2 or 3 shots where you only see the elves. And they were like, we'll just use their regular bodies for this. We'll just let them stand there and be elves.
Yeah.
And you don't notice any difference. Mm-hmm. It's like, except for the fact that their bodies aren't shaped the same.
Yeah.
Because you got some weird like I feel bad saying weird, like your body's weird, whoever it was. But just like it looked off.
Right.
The head did not fit the body.
Yeah.
And then when they do a shot of just the person, and be like, that looks like his body. That is clearly the right man. Yeah. That's the whole man right there. And then it was so gross looking. And constant.
Yes.
Like, Willie is in a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad because I was like, that guy's funny.
Yeah.
And he could definitely, like, I might have enjoyed his performance.
If it didn't look awful.
Yeah, if I wasn't distracted every 30 seconds by being like, there is better effect done on people's laptops right now.
Yeah.
Where they put somebody's face on someone else's body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and it looks perfect, and you'd never know the difference. And this movie, which it's 13 years ago, but still
considering other movies of that time and prior, that had better effects.
Yeah, like, I don't understand who approved that. Like, who did that test footage of like, here's the dancer's body. And here's my assistant's face, plastered on it to show you how it looks. And someone looked at that monstrosity and was like, it's great. Kids will love it.
Yeah.
I can only assume kids were terrified by it. And it's such a shame, too, because, like, I mean, you get into the elves, you get into the whole Santa's workshop stuff, because it's all just a big, like, it's just he's working at Santa's, and everything is Christmassy, and he doesn't like that, so he's gonna shake things up, and have dance sequences and stuff.
I mean, I would lose my mind too if the only song that was played on the radio throughout the entire place was Santa's Coming to Town.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That was an understandable breakdown.
No, I mean, absolutely. Like there's a lot of Christmas. I mean, there's a Christmas song later in the movie that is my least favorite Christmas song of all time. And I was like, of course this movie has it in here. It's got to hit every horrible beat. Has to do everything fucking terrible. Oh my God.
Which song?
Christmas rapping. Oh, dude, I cannot do that fucking the sing talking nonsense.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole song. That's all I hear. It's just muttering. It's the fucking worst. But like they waste, like, of all the things that this movie could like streamline, you'd think, especially like almost getting to 2 hours. It's like, dude, like I didn't necessarily feel it. I wasn't sitting there like, Jesus fuck, there's still more movie. Like it sucked, but it wasn't like, I just want to turn it off right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're pushing fucking 2 hours. You can cut the bit where you explain how Santa's workshop works. Yeah. Everybody knows. Like, you didn't even do anything different with it. If you're going to explain it, change something. Make it, give it a reason for being like, oh, you need to explain how it works because contrary to popular belief, we don't actually do blah, blah, blah. We do this. But it was literally just like, the kids send the cards, and then we build the toys, and then we send them out. It's like, like every story about Santa has ever done. Yeah. Why did we need to have him explain this to Fred to explain it to us? Like, Fred knows. Yeah. He's 1,000 years old, which is like so crazy. Like every once in a while I'd be sitting there looking at Vince Vaughn acting like completely, totally modern. And I'm like, this guy's 1,000 years old. All of his relationships seem crazy to me, where it's like, you are going to watch this slam kid grow up and then die. Mm-hmm. Because you are immortal. Like, how do you have a relationship with people? Like the whole like bit where it's like he has his girlfriend Wanda and then he's a dick and he doesn't show up to their dinner. Yeah. And then sorry, real quick, only laugh of the movie for me was the cut to her at the dinner. Yeah. Where like the bonsai restaurant is like literally insane. Yeah. It's like there's fights happening, everyone's screaming. Like, and she's just sitting there terrified of the dude like swinging knives towards her and stuff. I was like, that is the funniest thing to like for her, like for where she could be right now. Yeah. Where it's like, oh geez, she's at the dinner. and I'm not there. I'm sure she's angry. And then to cut to that, where it's like, I'm sure she's barely thinking about you, Fred, because she's like, this is absolute insanity. I need to leave and be safe.
Yeah, and she was like dressed up too.
Yeah, too, like completely inappropriate. It was so like, that was the one good fucking joke in that movie. And I was like, oh, I hope that's a sign of better things to come as this movie continues. And it is not.
Yeah.
But like a relationship with her, like she gets mad at him. He eventually spies on her through the snow globe thing and sees her flirting with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. And then she's like, no, I don't have a boyfriend. And he's like, oh no. And I just wrote down, I was like, so the dickhead gets dumped. He's a jerk to everybody except for Slam. And he's clearly like just bogus. Like he's not a good dude.
Yeah.
And then she like is angry at him about shit that she like should be angry about. And so you're just like, yeah, just dump him. So then when it happens, 40 minutes later in the movie, and it's like, oh, I don't have a boyfriend. It's like, oh, just now he's figuring this out?
It wasn't when she was yelling from the window that she was done. She couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, really. There's an entire breakup scene. And then he literally just says something along the lines of like, I don't accept that.
Yeah. Like, I can still take it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, that is not the point, you jackass. But okay, you think after living 1,000 years, you'd pick up on some social cues. But yeah, he gets broken up with earlier, and then he sees her later say that, I literally had forgotten that she yelled down to him, like, it is over, we are broken up. Like, holy shit, that's right. So it's like, yeah, this dude's a dick. He gets broken up with, like, for a very good reason, and then he's sad about it later. And then, some other shit happens, whatever. By the end of the movie, they're like all made up somehow.
I know.
I was like, bear?
She was way too forgiving.
It was a bear with a flag, a French flag. And that was what was in the box.
Beret.
Yeah. And then she was just like, okay. And not only was she okay, like on top of being so angry with him for everything that had happened throughout the movie, she was also like, you just broke into my apartment.
Yes.
And then he was like, you mean our apartment? I'm going to live here now. My personality doesn't let you know if I'm joking or not, but I'm going to walk away and just leave you with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like, at that moment, she should have just been like, I am never opening this box. Take it with you. Leave. I'm going to call the police.
Yeah.
But then she opens it and it's like, oh, it's a little teddy bear and it's got a French flag. Oh, and that's it. And she's done. She's won over.
Yeah.
But like, I just don't understand how he can give a shit about having a relationship with someone when you're immortal.
Well, because he knows that his wife will become immortal.
Oh, if they get married.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So he's just got to keep trying every few decades, give it another go.
Finds another girl, see if it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so strange, the idea of like the fact that he knows people. It's like, okay, I mean, I guess maybe after a while you'd get a nerd to the fact that all of your friends and acquaintances die.
Yeah.
And you'd just be like, I guess I'm just making it'd be like getting a new pet.
Yeah.
Eventually, you'd just be like, this guy's my best friend for this decade or two. And then once he goes, I'll pick up a new one at the pound and it'll be perfect. It's just, I could not stop thinking about his age.
Yeah.
And that whole lunacy. Like, it's just such a ridiculous conceit. So strange.
I like the way the Santa Claus did it better.
I mean, I don't even remember.
Santa falls off the roof. And then Tim Allen puts on the pants.
Well, okay. I mean, I know that. Oh, I thought you meant like prior to that happening.
That's just how you become Santa. And then when Tim Allen falls off a roof, someone else puts on the pants, and
gotcha.
There's a new Santa.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That
there's no first Santa. It's just this is the current Santa until he falls and dies, and then there's a new Santa.
That one's not immortal.
See, much more relatable.
Yeah, I believe in that one. But then, like, on top of all of that, because obviously it can't just be that Fred is going to work there and get paid and then leave. There's got to be more to it. So then they introduce the most baffling subplot of a Santa movie that I have ever seen.
It raises so many more questions than it answers.
It doesn't answer any of them. Like, that's the worst part about it. Like, you see like, okay, I got to follow the timeline in my notes because like it was just this growing level of like, wait, what? Wait, what? Because they first start talking about how there's like a guy coming. And that is Clyde. That's Kevin Spacey's character, who's clearly like the villain or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I just wrote Kevin Spacey. Oh dear. Like, oh.
I wrote Kevin Spacey. Oh boy.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, yeah. As soon as he shows up, I just wrote the board. What fucking board? Yeah. He's like, I'm here to oversee your efficiency. And in my head, I was like, oversee? Like, who's above Santa? Yeah. Especially in a world where, like, he created all of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe in that case, like in the Santa Claus case, you could understand, like, there's a system here.
Yeah.
There's people. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
We got to have people in charge of this shit, and you're brand new. So there's got to be someone above Santa to show you what the fuck's going on and have you do it.
Well, there was Bernard the elf.
Well, right, but yeah. But in this case, it's like this guy built this. It's like he's like super grassroots Santa thing where it's like he built the whole concept.
Yeah.
Like the gift giving, the trees, the chimney, all of it came from him. Like he built this whole thing. Who the fuck is above him? And they never explain it. They don't even try to explain it.
Yeah, my only assumption is that it would be whatever being like made him a saint.
I mean, whichever deity you I mean, that's just the strange thing too. It's like something granted him immortality.
Yeah.
What is it? What is out there? Like something with intelligence saw the deeds he was doing and was like, you deserve this.
Yeah.
What? Oh my God. There must be some sort of like horrifying Cthulhu monster in the skies who's just like picking people left and right. Be like, you immortality, you doomed forever. And the movie, obviously, since it's just a dumb, like another dumb dwarf tossing, goofy ass comedy for kids, they don't give a half a fuck about answering any of those questions. And they're just playing it like, you know, it's like it makes sense until you think about it. You know what I mean? The idea of like, hey, you need efficiency is down and Santa might get shut down by the board. And it's like, hey, that's how adults with jobs talk. Yeah. Totally. I get that.
And they mentioned that, you know, they already shut down or they're
going to shut down the Easter Bunny or something like that.
They
everything.
cut back on the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah. You know, and it's like, and what are you?
What?
Like, and weirdest part about it, though, like, here's the absolute craziest part to me that I didn't really think of until like much later. And then it was just like, oh my God, because they kind of build Kevin Spacey up to be the villain, like right off the bat, on top of being the like no nonsense bearer of bad news kind of character, you know, who's like, I'm here to oversee, and if shit goes wrong, I'm gonna shut you down, and that's just what I gotta do.
Yeah.
That it's like, okay, he might not be bad, he just has to do the bad thing.
Yeah.
And then he's clearly like sabotaging shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so he's got a vendetta against Santa. Who is he?
Yeah.
You know, like, who is he really? There, you know, there must be some like, oh, he's the Krampus, you know, he's the Anti-Claus, whatever the fuck he is. You know, like he, you know, there's something special about him. And then when Santa like discovers his secret about how it's like, oh, you were a bullied boy you were bullied, so that made you mean. So you were deemed naughty all the time, and you didn't get the present you wanted, and I apologized to you, and here's your Superman cape, which is actually pretty damn funny because I think just a couple years before he was Lex Luthor in a Superman movie, so him wearing the cape is pretty funny.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my, okay, so this is one of those like, oh, he hates him because okay, and now he's better and they're gonna be friends now.
And wait a minute, there's a human on the board?
Yeah. I was like, who the fuck hired him? How did he get hired to be the guy who goes to magic places and shuts them down? A regular human. So confusing about like who the fuck is above Santa Claus that is shutting this down.
Yeah.
Like none of this has any any explanation. And you know what I mean? Like it only comes up because he's coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a case of like, oh geez, because of that accident we had a few weeks ago, now there's, you know, it was literally just like, this guy's coming.
Yeah.
And now he's going to check everything out and he might shut you down. And it's like, but just because?
Yeah.
That's it. Someone chose this. Like someone decided to do this like audit of magic. I guess. I don't know. Voldemort? What is going on? I have no fucking idea. And it just doesn't even try for a half of a second to make any kind of sense.
Yeah.
I wrote, just in terms of having other questions about the whole like magic stuff, I wrote in here, are the reindeer immortal too? Because he tells, what's his face? Willie.
Yes.
He tells Willie the story, like I'm sure it was a fake story he was just making up, but the story of like how Blitzen fell on his first attempt at trying to fly.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, hey, it happens, buddy. People fall down, but you just get back up and whatever. And it's like, wait a minute. Blitzen's first time, which must have been hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
So is this like a Lassie situation where it's like, oh, that one's Blitzen, quotes. We've eaten the last 70 Blitzens. You know, like, I don't know if that's the case or what's going on there, but it was just like, what is magic and what isn't magic?
Yeah.
And why is Elizabeth Banks tall? Why is she normal? And I know why, because they looked at their fucking elf designs and were like, it's gonna be horrifying if to put her face on an elf, so she just gets to be normal size. Like, there's no explanation for it. Nobody even mentions it. Like, for the longest time I was just like, so she's a human who works up here, I guess. Okay, whatever. Maybe she's Mrs. Claus's like niece or something. You know what I mean? Like she was a normal human from another family, and then now she gets to live here now or something. And then I was looking on Wikipedia, and they just call her like a very tall elf, and I'm like, what? Why? Why is that a thing that can just happen? Like, some elves are just normal sized people when they're Elizabeth Banks. When they're anybody else, just slap that face on whoever the fuck. I don't care. And then I mean, you know, we're just jumping all over the place because the plot of this is so like
it
nothing.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like he works at the place doing nothing. Like, he gets to pick who's naughty and nice, and then he just sort of stops doing that, and then he fights some more dwarves, and then he gets them all dancing to fucking Elvis and everything. And I was just like, this is so lame, so like outstandingly lame. Because like when it first kind of started, like when he put on new music instead of the Christmas music, and all the elves are just kind of like, oh gee, okay, well, this is a little different, and he's just kind of walking around, like maybe just doing like a little bit of like a shimmy, because of course he like always is, just like kind of walking around like, hey, isn't this cool, isn't this way better? I was like, all right, this is bearable. Like, you know, just being like, I'm going to change things up a little bit, guys. And then when it was like, oh, hey, oh, what's this? Let's jump on this table. Everybody start dancing. This whole crowd's going crazy. And I was like, this movie literally is thinking this is cool. Like, they're thinking that Fred is like, this guy the coolest, teaching the elves to dance. And I'm like, oh my God. I wrote down, I was like, Fred teaches the elves to dance forever. That scene took so long. And it like, oh my God, it's just so not fun. So just so the opposite of fun. And I cannot stop bringing up Elf, because it's like, you know, just as a deflection for that argument of like, it's a kid's movie, dummy. You're an adult and you're watching a kid's movie and you're talking about how it's not fun. It's like, have you ever seen a fucking good kids movie that can appeal to everybody because it's great? And it just has like people who seem to give a shit making it and everything. Like, it's such the difference between like, you know, like, you should just let it happen. Like, it's just a kids movie. What do you care? And it's like, well, it's because it's garbage and it's feeding garbage to the kids. Like, not, and I know I kind of made a thing about that during Jack Frost. Yeah, Jack Frost, right? That was, that's the one where I was really going into it about like the day of Christmas. And the bullshit that comes along with that. But just the general sense of like, look, I want kids to watch good movies. Like,
Yeah.
that's just who I am. I don't want kids to sit and watch some piece of fucking garbage like every day of their life, like the same piece of garbage movie over and over. Cause it's like, cause it's fun, cause the elves dance.
Yeah.
And it's like, just watch the good one. Like, watch the movie where there's fucking payoffs and like good acting and like sight gags and shit and everything.
You still get a lesson.
Yeah, like, it's just so lame. And I think a huge wasted thing about this, other than Paul Giamatti,
yes,
is the North Pole. That set and all of that shit looked awesome.
Yeah, it did.
It was one of the coolest ones I think I'd seen.
Yeah,
at least in a long time. I haven't watched too much like at the North Pole movies, or at least I can't really remember them all that well.
Yeah.
But it was just like, this is such an awesome set. And everything is put together so well, and it looks exactly like it should.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, someone put so much work into those sets for them to just like waltz in there and be like, let's just do some crappy jokes with this awesome set in the background. Like, oh, you're wasting it. You're so fucking wasting it.
Yep.
The fact that like they go through all that bullshit, like Fred stamps all the kids as nice, and that's their third strike, and so Clyde's gonna shut them all down, and Vince Vaughn is just gonna take his money and go home, and then of course he has his change of heart. I don't even remember what happens. Do you remember even what happens that makes him go and
it was Siblings Anonymous.
Oh, that's right. Roger Clinton has
a
speech about something. I was so distracted by that.
Yeah.
Like, not like, for one, because that scene also goes on forever.
Yes, it does.
It's like the joke is funny enough with Stallone. And then they go into, and then they have Stephen Baldwin with like, that bit was funny. Like, that's not Alec. Like, that's a funny bit, like, especially for him to be self-aware enough to do that joke.
Oh, yeah.
Because truthfully, Stephen Baldwin does not seem like the kind of guy who'd be cool enough to do that joke, who'd be like, fuck you, if you asked him to do it. So I'm surprised they asked him, surprised he said yes, so kudos to him.
Yeah. I was like Stevie Baldwin.
Yeah, but like, so that whole thing happens. He realizes that he needs to go back to the North Pole. He gets to the North Pole, and of course, there's a third act time crunch that needs to happen and everything.
Yep.
And I'm just like, who fucking cares? It's magic.
Yeah.
It's always magic. Like, you can spend the first 20 minutes of the movie explaining how Santa's a real person who built Christmas from the ground up and is immortal for some reason, and has basically created this Christmas empire and shit. And then also say that he actually factually gets to every single household in the entire world in one night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to put in a little bit more legwork and figure out how to make that reasonable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It should be some sort of like, and then who the gods who gave us immortality also gave us a portal where we could toss a toy in and it shoots it out under the Christmas tree of the kid who it's for, or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no way to be like it essentially, if you're starting with the most realistic Santa origin story, the Santa Begins of Christmas movies, like, you cannot have the end of the movie be the like, time crunch, gotta get all the presents to everyone. And they do, because of course.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they kept like nailing home, like, you have 10 hours, or there's only so many hours, or you have until sunup, or you have until this. And it's like, it doesn't matter. He's gonna do it because it's magic. Doesn't matter how many houses you show him going into. It's never gonna be like, oh man, he better hurry up in there because he's got to hit 17 billion more houses in the next hour.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, of course he's going to do it because it's magic and it doesn't make any sense. Like, why are you acting like this is actually like a suspenseful, like, oh, will he or won't he?
Yeah.
But also his plan. Because he gets back and like the shop is turned off and Santa hurt his back. Oh yeah, because they fought.
Yeah.
I just wrote brother fight. Because a few notes earlier, I wrote orphan fight when Slam starts that fight in the orphanage. I was just like, oh, it's an orphan fight.
Oh,
orphan fight. But like, so yeah, he gets back and Santa can't do it. And, since all of these kids are nice now, we don't have enough toys. And I was like, okay, so like he flies up there, you know, he does I guess that's the adventure is that time when he goes to the North Pole, because he has to fly and then have like Sherpas take him somewhere.
Well, he flew and then he took a ship and then he had a Sherpa and then he snowshoed.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, so that was an adventure.
Yes.
But so he wastes all of that time.
Well, no, because he said that he had to get to the North Pole by tonight.
Oh, yeah. And somehow that was enough.
Yeah.
Like that was still all in the night.
I just don't understand. Like, put extra fuel on that plane and just fly the rest of the way?
Parachute out?
Yeah.
You know how awesome that sequence would be, parachuting down into the North Pole? It'd be amazing.
To like come to the rescue?
Yeah, right? It'd be the fucking coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, the elves would lose their shit.
Yeah. But like as he's going, I'm just like, what is his fucking plan?
Yeah.
Like there's no real move here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're already behind schedule. You already know that you can't get toys to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like because of the fact that now everyone is nice. They didn't allot for this.
Yeah.
Like we were already behind schedule. Now we're double behind schedule. Like, what are you coming up here to do other than waste that $50,000 they gave you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was like, instead of using it on his betting thing, he uses all of it to get back to the North Pole. And if he got there and it was like, hey, I'm back. Like, you're back? Like, I'm back. Like, okay, are you going to give us our money back? Like, nope, it is gone. Like, oh, well, we could have used it because we're out of business now. Like, oh, wow, I've made a mistake. But no, everything works out fine. But it's just like, what is he going to do? There's nothing he could do. And then, like, this was so insulting to me. The fact that it was just like, what's the fucking easiest shit we can make? Baseball bats and hula hoops, right?
Yeah.
So every boy gets a baseball bat, every girl gets a hula hoop. And I was like, what a fucking corner-cutting bullshit, like, answer to this problem.
Yeah.
And then I think, what was her name? I don't even remember her name now. It was Elizabeth Banks. Charlene? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was just like, but they didn't ask for those.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but they'll get a present. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? That is your reasoning for it. And then when he goes to talk to Santa about it, he's like, we cut some corners, but we got a plan. It's like he even admits that they're cutting corners, and we're still supposed to look at him like he's a hero or something.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I came up with this great thing. Doesn't actually solve the problem, but it makes it look like I did something.
Yeah, we might make it through tonight.
Yeah, it's like we might just be able to like get a box under every tree. That's the plan, right? Doesn't matter what's in it, right? Yeah. Like that is not Christmas. Like that's not the whole point. Like those kids are gonna be pissed. They're gonna be like, I wrote Santa for something and he gave me a bat. I have a bat.
Yeah.
What do I need another bat for?
Yeah.
What if there's two boys to a family and they're both like, we both got bats? What the fuck? Who cares? Why do we want bats? Or the girl who wanted a bat and got a hula hoop.
Yeah.
She's like, this is bullshit. Like it's just the dumbest solution, and it's supposed to be like, oh, way to go. Good job, man. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, fine. They get all this done, and then, of course, he's going to say that he doesn't want to go and deliver the presents, but, you know, he's going to have to.
Yeah.
So I hope at least...
Because only a Claus can deliver.
That is the thing. It's like, he's obviously going to be like, oh, man, I don't know about that. You know, I don't know. I can't go and do it. So you'd think that there should be something where maybe someone says something to him like, hey, man, your brother really helped you out.
Yeah.
He gave you a whole lot of money and you barely did any work. So maybe you should just buck up and do this for him. You know, like something like that.
Yeah.
But instead, it's a rule that only a Claus can deliver the presents.
Yeah.
And I just wrote, who wrote that rule?
Yeah.
This is Santa's game.
Yeah.
He made it. Like, that would be ridiculous for there to be like, there's just, so Santa came up with everything. But also, there's just this one rule that nobody can break.
Yeah.
We don't know where it came from, but you can't break it. Like, wait, what? Why? What? Why would that ever be a thing? Like, did Santa do that? Did he put that in place? Specifically to be like, fuck you, elves. I don't trust you. It can never be one of you.
Well, Clyde knew about it too.
Yeah.
He had mentioned he thought that it was just Santa could deliver the presents.
Yeah. Like, well, that's what makes me realize that it's like, no, it has to come from.
Yeah.
Like the board, the space fucking monkeys who apparently own Santa and all. Like, it's just so confusing. And it's like, of course, that is what makes him finally do the right fucking thing. Like even though it's the end result of his corner cutting bullshit plan, it's like at least he could have taken it to fruition of his own will.
Yeah.
And been like, all right, you know what? I should do this.
Yeah.
Instead, it's literally just like, you're the only one who can do this. And not like because we believe in you, but because of some awful rule.
Yeah.
Believe me, we wish someone else could do this.
Yeah. Willie himself said that he wished he could.
Yeah. Like he would have done it and Fred would have been like, oh, whew, thank God. And he never would have done it.
Yeah. What I don't get is why couldn't Willie have been the one to drive?
Yeah.
Like, because he actually knew what he was doing when it comes to driving the sleigh.
Yeah. Like, is it that Santa is the only one, or not even Santa, a Claus? Like, what does that mean? Is that there simply so that, like, if Santa goes down, like, it's a blood relative that takes it over or something? Like, why would that ever be instituted? You know, it's like there's no one else who would be doing it anyway.
Yeah.
It has to be a Claus because this is Santa's job.
Can Santa procreate?
I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't want to think about that. But yeah, so he delivers all the toys because, of course, the only funny thing about that whole thing, and it never got to the point of actually being like, oh, like they never did it big enough, but like just the concept was funny enough, was the idea that he has to eat everything left out for him.
Yeah.
Like that's like a thing. Like you got to do that or they get really upset about that.
Yeah.
So the idea of like, oh, fuck, I have so many cookies to eat, but they don't take it to its like logical extreme of him being like eventually weighed down with like just the worst stomach cramps in the world and being like, Willie, I can't. Like you have to eat it, like, or like giving it to a dog or something, you know, like just trying to get rid of it or doing something silly with it. But there
was like one part where he like threw some in his sack.
Yeah, and even that it didn't even seem like it was like because he was eating too much. It was just like, oh, I'll just take these to go, I guess. It's quicker. Whatever, yeah. But it's just like, man, you have one funny little bit in here and you don't even actually do it.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
One thing that could have been exploited.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, because Santa was nice to him, Clyde becomes a good guy. Mm-hmm. So there's really no bad guys by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's not like I was looking for a death scene or something. Like, man, I was just waiting for the moment where, you know, in downtown North Pole, where Fred and Clyde have a duel and they fucking fire at each other and shit. Like, no,
Clyde gets frozen.
Fired. Something, or you know, anything at all. But it's like, well, it's because he was sad and now he's not.
Yeah.
So now he's a friend of theirs and whatever, who cares? So it's like he doesn't do anything to like save the day at the end, really. Or does he? No, because he turns on the power and it doesn't even work. Remember, they're like, we got to turn that power back on, buddy. And then like, and it's broken anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, so he doesn't even fucking help. It's just like, okay, well, you help later, like next year.
Yeah.
As our efficiency expert. But for now, I guess just hang it over there. Just please don't throw any more wrenches into our works, please. We're friends now, right?
Stop shredding kids' letters.
Yeah, really.
Oh, I don't know how we didn't mention this earlier. But towards the beginning of the movie, Vince Vaughn is being chased by a bunch of Santas.
Yes, he is.
And there's like literal cartoon noises.
Oh, God, yeah.
Over the chase scene. Like,
yeah. Weren't there also fart noises added over something at one point in this movie where somebody's butt was getting hit with something?
That was when Wanda was at the restaurant and the guy in the sumo cage
in the background, he
got like pushed up against the cage right behind her head and there was a fart noise. Yes. Fucking ridiculous.
The fucking Baby Town frolics. Like it's so low. It's so bad. And like they don't even give Fred any kind of like likability or distinctive character trait other than like speaking fast and being a jerk.
Yeah.
Because I wrote down like, you know, obviously at the beginning of the movie they show that like Mrs. Claus doesn't like Fred. And you'd think that since he's going up there and his brother is doing him such a huge solid, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to give you $50,000 for barely any work. Literally, just be here, please. Like, that's really all Santa wants, which is so sad.
Yeah.
And one of the great things about Paul Giamatti in it is that he's like, you really truly feel that he's just like, I just don't know how to make you like me.
Yeah.
And it tears me up and everything. And it's like, you're giving way more than anyone else in this movie is.
Yeah.
But like, you'd think, since he's fucking giving him so much money to come up here and barely do any work, that he could like pretend to be a decent person.
Right.
And then they sit down for dinner and he's like immediately sniping at Mrs. Claus. I don't remember exactly what or it's something along the lines of like, oh, I'm glad you dressed up.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And it's like, fuck yourself, dude. Yeah. You just got here. You must know she hates you.
Yeah.
And your brother's doing you a huge favor. You can't even fucking put on a smile and just be like, thank you for dinner.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Like, you're an asshole all the time. I guess once you've been an asshole for 1,000 years, you're just like, I don't even pretend to not be anymore.
Yeah.
This is literally who I am 24/7 until time ends. Yeah, this is me now. Oh man, what an awful, awful movie. One nice thing though is that this movie wasn't as long as it apparently could have been, because the special features on the Blu-ray include 25 minutes of deleted scenes.
Fuck that. My God.
Man, if they left in that fucking dancing sequence.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for Popcorn for Dinner for this week. We got one more week in December, so we got one more Christmas movie to do. Another classic, real true classic, not one of these fake classics. But it should be exciting, and hopefully it'll be way better than this.
It's got to be.
It literally has to be.
It can't be worse. It's impossible.
It's highly possible. But yeah, this is Jeff.
And Kelly.
How much are you actually feeding these elves?